Welcome and thanks for joining us for our 10th virtual reading. We can't believe it's that long. Peter here, and we're glad that you're with us tonight. We can't wait to see you in person, but until then, we'll be doing this on Zoom until as long as we can. I'd like to thank my Murphy Writing colleagues, Stephanie Colley and Taylor Coyle, who are the heroes of this and our other programs online. Tonight, we're privileged to host three Stockton University colleagues, Emily August, Jason Camacho, and Cynthia Arrieu-King. You can read their bios on our Murphy Writing website, murphywriting.com, as well as on the Murphy Writing webpage. Next week, we're very happy to announce our featured reader will be Pulitzer Prize-winning writer Gregory Pardlow. So please be here next week, 7 o'clock, same place. And if you haven't heard Greg read before, it'll be a privilege. You'll love hearing him this time. And if you missed any of our other previous virtual readings, so would like to re-experience them, go to our Murphy Writing YouTube page. Stephanie will post a link in the chat box, or you can just go to YouTube and post and write in Murphy Writing, and we'll come up. I'd like to also tell you about our next series of poetry, fiction, and nonfiction tutorials are going to be happening in a couple of weeks. Stephanie is going to be doing tutorials for poetry, Joe Costello will be doing for fiction, and I'll be doing for memoir and creative nonfiction. Again, go to murphywriting.com and you'll be able to see what's happening there. And I'd like to finally, before you get started, thank you for contributing to our Pass the Hat Fund. Due to your generosity, we're able to post our daily writing prompts, continue our Monday and Wednesday write-ins, and have these virtual readings, at least until the end of June. We couldn't do this without your help, so thank you again. And if you're new to Zoom, let me just show you at the bottom here, you have a reactions button. If you click that, you can applaud after a poem, or you can raise your thumb, either way. So if you want to do that, you can do that. Applaud, raise your thumb, or you can just do it like that in the old-fashioned way. All right, so let's get started. Please welcome Emily August, Jacob Camacho, and Cynthia Arrieu-King.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much. I want to say thank you to Peter, to Stephanie, to Taylor, to everybody at Murphy Writing for making this happen. Thanks to my fellow readers. I'm so excited to be reading with you tonight. This is such a wonderful event, and I'm so glad to be a part of it. And thank you to our assembled audience who is here with us tonight, and to those of you who are going to be joining later on. Seeing the replay, it's just so lovely to be sharing some words with you while we're all just doing it one day at a time in these strange times. I am Emily August, and today I'll be reading just a handful of poems. In previous of these readings in this writing series, people have started off by showing you their books. I don't have a book yet, and so what I wanted to show you is my cute little fox in the woods mug that I'll be drinking tea out of during my reading. So hopefully that makes you as happy as it makes me. All right, so it was an interesting sort of project for me to figure out how to choose the poems I wanted to read tonight. Probably like many poets, I've usually gone with the strategy of choosing what I think are my best poems and the poems that read the best in a public reading. And for whatever reason, I was like, not today. And I decided to go ahead and choose poems that I'd never read in public, either because they're not my favorite poems, I don't think they're my best poems, or maybe they just don't read as well in public. Maybe they read better on the page. And so I decided to call them my safer at home poems that I felt have been locked away at home, have been quarantined, and that I've never let out into the light of day. So we'll see how that goes. You can let me know. You can say, no, that was a good poem, bring it out again. Or you can let me know, no, safer at home. All right. So the first poem I'm going to read you is part of, I write a lot about education. I have a bit of a strained relationship with education. And I've always loved learning, but I've always seen school as a sort of disciplining force. And I've always seen schooling as something that sort of chisels away at the wild rawness of personhood, I guess. And so my first couple poems are speaking to that general idea. And this one is called Instruction. Once I was as wild as a crabapple tree. Then it was time for school. The teacher clapped chalk from her hands, and the white dust settled. I couldn't cut a folded piece of paper into a snowflake. After I spread the paper open, I always wound up with two separate halves. At my little desk, I strained to be a person. The desk asked me to be smaller. Instruction should have made me fit, but I haven't yet. So this next poem is a persona poem from the perspective of Pinocchio. I'm really into fairy tales. I'm really into 19th century literature in general. And I'm really drawn to Pinocchio. I've always been drawn to Pinocchio as a character and somebody who I really have always identified with Pinocchio as somebody who was forced into education and kind of forced to comply with social ideologies and social norms, and he kind of just wanted to like exist. And so I have a lot of persona poems from Pinocchio, and this is one of them. It's called The Puppet's Education. I run from the classroom after the teacher asks us to measure gravity. I never wanted to go to school anyway. The lessons seemed designed to modify me. In the trees, I hear breath behind me, and it's the same story. I can never be totally sure what it is that's hunting me. I hide under the largest fern by the path in the woods and wait. In the distance, I hear the coach. Its bells chime like the silvery spittle of infants. Its wheels crunch the road like a fairy's flatulence. Upon its approach, a plump man in a burgundy suit descends its delicate, groaning steps. His face is pink against the deeper rose of the coach's interior, a fabric so shiny it must be oiled meat. His mustache is blonde. I hadn't imagined hair to come in yellow. He extends his thick fist toward me to where I crouch between the fronds. I think he means to grasp my hand and lift me, make a parabola with my body, understanding how I ache to be suspended as if by strings, to be perpetually dizzy, dependent on air. But he just pulls me into the coach and tosses me onto the shiny red chair. I think back to the lesson we were taught in class. Assembled at the window, we watched through the glass as a kite ascended, then crashed. Its flight aborted as the wind died, in compliance with its nature. Nothing can float forever, said the physics teacher. So something else I write a lot about is kind of inherited trauma and family legacies of violence, intergenerational violence, and how we pass violence down generation after generation. And I think about that as another kind of education, how we learn and how we are instructed to carry on violence generation after generation. And so a lot of my poems deal with violence, with domestic violence and the effects of that, with how violence is recorded on the body, and just kind of examining, what comes out of that kind of dark place. And so my next couple of poems are in line with that. And this first one is called There. In the darkness of the tractor shed, the body is barely visible, huddled next to the implements that furrow the flesh of the field. The body is left there after the blades of the thresher have done their terrible work. In the darkness of the tractor shed, the body tries to insist on its existence. Pain roosts in the joints, threatening to become matter. The slow cut of the winter wind penetrates through the cracks in the building's frame. In the darkness of the tractor shed, nothing has definition. There is no fear because there is nothing to fear. There, it's easy to withdraw to death because death is so white. It has no definition. There, a pulse is useless. There is nothing left to beat. This poem is called Family Practice. From the moment we're born, our bodies are burdens. Our mothers pass down the cradle song, willing the bow to break. Our fathers pass down the myth of Icarus, willing our wings to unfasten. We pass down the cookbooks from matriarch to daughter, generations and generations of bourbon, tobacco, and sugar. Ribboned in fat, we tender toward the ghosts, hoping to be inhabited. We hoard the old sicknesses as misers, cultivate the cadaver's complaint. We use the ghost's hands to build the property of our bodies in their image. Organs fail us, lesions leave us lean. No healing can unviolate us. Invisible, we embrace our conversion to ghosts. Doctor, if you see us revert back into skin, withhold your medicine. And the last poem I'll read for you is called The Split Fig. When we tired of stained glass, we manufactured halogen. It was holy because it shined. But its chemistry would not heat, despite how we breathed with devotion, our mouths hovering over the bulbs, transferring energy in a warm fog. We could not understand what we had done wrong. In penance, we fastened our eyelids with a hot glue gun, choosing unknowing. We pinched our noses with clothespins, and the smell of the split fig rotting at the tree's roots could no longer admonish us. Like this, we discovered anesthesia. This was the lesson of science. Our suffering turned out to have some permanent use. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Emily, that was awesome. All right, coming after that, I'm not so sure what to say immediately after, but I want to say that was dope. I really appreciate it. Peter, Stephanie, thank you for putting this together. And I'm really humbled to be here today. Yeah, so I'm gonna time myself just to make sure I don't go over. And all right, so I'm gonna be reading an excerpt from a short story that I have published here in University of Guam Storyboard. So I see a few folks from the islands, so I want to say hafade, right? I want to say hafade to the Malakau, right? How are you guys? How's everyone doing? And the story I'm going to be reading is called Proclamation, and then I have a short poem to read right after. But this story, Proclamation, is a what if, like what if Trump and his administration were to seize complete control of all the United States territories, right? Virgin Islands, American Samoa, Guam, right? Puerto Rico. All right. They treat our history as fable and fiction, Haven't we the same right concerning that which they teach us as incontestable truths? They exploit our simplicity and good faith. All their skill is directed towards tricking us. All their knowledge tends only to make us unhappy. If we are ignorant and blind, as they would have us believe, it is because we have learned their evil plans too late and have allowed them to settle here. Let us not lose courage in the presence of our misfortune. They are only a handful. We can easily defeat them. Even though we don't have their deadly weapons, which spread destruction all over, we can overcome them by our large numbers. We are stronger than we think. We can quickly free ourselves from these foreigners. We must regain our former freedom. An excerpt from Chief Hurao's speech, Guam, 1671. I will never quit. I persevere and thrive on adversity. My nation expects me to be physically harder and mentally stronger than my enemies. If knocked down, I will get back up every time. I will draw on every remaining ounce of strength to protect my teammates and to accomplish the mission. I am never out of the fight. Excerpt from the United States Navy SEAL Ethos. Humidity smothers me with wet kisses all over my body the second United Flight 975 opens its door. Guam, Guam, I am home. I expect the usual Atambaba from customs when I get out of the terminal. Something besides the equator greets me. Today, when the heat hits me, I think of it more as my ancestors embracing me home. However, the rest of the passengers on the plane and I are greeted by a white Navy man with black Ray-Ban aviators perched on his nose. Welcome. Guam is now and forever henceforth under the control of the 45th President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, in accordance to the Guam Proclamation Act of 2021. Behind me, a handful of passengers peep over shoulders. I don't need to hear that president's name right when I touch down at home after being gone for a decade. The captain of United Flight 975 is the first to reply. What is this? Some sort of jest? Sir, I'm going to need you and everyone in this plane to follow the designated signs and pathways towards the educational center. Educational center? A passenger asked. Ray-Bans lifts his right hand as if ready to receive communion, and another man in camels hands him a manila folder. It's so thick with paper that Ray-Ban's hand dips an inch. The United States Navy will be providing you with a list of your priorities today. He removes the documents and hands them to the captain. Be sure that every individual within this aircraft possesses this bill before departing towards the educational center. He turns around, proceeding down the pathway marked with posters. Educational center, past terminals 21 and 22, beyond the food court. The men in camels stay behind, rifles in hand. What is this? A passenger shouts from the back of the line. I got my par, my molly out there waiting for me. Can we get this moving, please? Por favor. Another jumps in. What's that he said about Trump? Guam Proclamation Act. The captain passes the stack of papers to a flight attendant who begins dispersing them throughout the cabin, each passenger taking one and passing it on. Nobody says anything else. I can feel their eyes rapidly skimming through the paper line by line. We start marching out of the plane and along the route. I read the paper. The Guam Proclamation Act of 2021 is the United States federal law designating the island of Guam as a militia-only territory of the United States. Establish executive, legislative, and judicial branches that adhere to the 45th President, Donald J. Trump, subjugated dictatorship only to the next of kin. Vice President Mike Pence and Associate Justice of the Supreme Court of the United States, Brett Kavanaugh, are designated overseers instilling the proclamation, aka the list, towards the Lord's furthest United States territory, Guam. Guam Proclamation Act of 2021, Article 1, Section 1. 45th President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, is the one true God's representative here on earth. His will is the Lord's will. Section 2, number 1. No savage languages, traditions, or cultures of any kind shall be practiced on or within Guam. Henceforth, Guam is cleansed of any and all impurities to best serve the one true Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Those in practice of stated prohibitions shall be detained until appropriate death, as only savages practice such acts under the control of Satan. Once a zealot, he, herself, and family will thoroughly and fully be prosecuted by the law. So that's my little excerpt. My story goes on to discuss the protagonist's journey and escape from the internment camp, if you will, in the airport. So now next, to wrap up my reading, I have one poem here. And this poem is a Sistina. And I learned the Sistina form from my mentor, Patrick Rosal, so I had to give a shout out to him. But the Sistina I am about to read takes place in a part of the island of Guam called Ritidian. Now, Ritidian goes by like Ritidian Point by some of the locals, and Ritidian is the last place in the island of Guam that has not been touched industrially, right? So there's no major development of any kind there. The jungle is the same as it was 2,000 years ago, right? And the Sistina takes place inside a cave in Ritidian Point. The poem is called My First Time Alone in Ritidian's Cave. Have you seen my ancestors' paintings, traced with your eyes, their dark brown skin? It wasn't until I was older with these eyes that I walked inside a cave of limestone. Their images of bodies, dark like blood, made me forget how to use my lips. And no words seep past these dry lips. I lost myself beside those paintings, where the aquifer doesn't filter blood. They whispered to me to study my skin, past my flesh, past the mud, through limestone, to gaze down at my feet with dark brown eyes. You could see my soul dance within these eyes. From behind my teeth, whispered through these lips, spoke an old language that crumbles limestone, to unveil what my ancestors' paintings say. Give thanks for your olive skin. Give thanks for your blood. Have you ever tasted your own blood? The way it plaques your teeth, glosses your eyes. I've lost it, pricked it, cut it, gassed it. Skin, mine, my own, elastic, soft like these lips. This body crawled through mud and onto paintings, onto these walls made of limestone. I've used it since grade school fights, limestone, for reasons childish, foolish, drawn blood. The same aged color that lined these paintings. I've cried mosaic images through eyes with white knuckles that hammered cut lips. Me against others with the same colored skin. When was the last time you kissed skin instead of scratching, beating with limestone? I wouldn't say a lie in that cave with bland lips, these sweaty palms, with this blood, ever. I remained in that cave until my eyes needed the sun again. But the painting, I wish to ink these paintings into my skin, so my eyes know, confirm, that without limestone, I may pour blood, my blood, from behind these lips. All right. So that's me. And many thanks again, Peter, Stephanie, and everyone for coming through on this.
Thank you so much, Jacob. That was amazing. And thanks, Emily, for your poems too. Thanks to Murphy Writing, Stephanie, Peter, and Taylor for organizing this reading. It's so nice to gather with you all and hear so many wonderful poems tonight. Before I read some poems, I wanted to make a recommendation, which is that if you don't have it, you should get this book, which is My Heart But Not My Heart by Stephanie Colley. You can't see it because my lamp is too bright, but I'm just going to read a tiny little bit of it. It's got such a rich, frieze-like quality to it, where you feel like you're reading different parts of a life, and then they just keep stacking up, and it's really incredible. So this is by Stephanie Colley. There is a model of peace based on a model of health, the health of the body, the health of a society. But some people aren't healthy, and everybody dies. This feels like a stupid and obvious fact, but somehow no one seems interested in discussing it. My doctor cousin explains that sometimes the problem in the heart is electrical. There's a blank. How can give up with one too strong pulse of electricity. The fan that never would spin again after the lightning storm. The problem of illness as metaphor seems the problem of denying the baseline itch to lie down on the floor and never get up, which I think a lot of us have been feeling like that. So I really appreciate that you make it real, that you say, this is happening and this happened to me, big feelings, and so on. So My Heart But Not My Heart, available on the internet by Stephanie Colley. Okay, so I'm going to read a few poems from my book, Futureless Languages, which is also available on the internet. Can you hear me okay, Stephanie? Okay. First poem in the book is called Futureless Languages. It seemed endless, and then it didn't disappear, but there was no way to look it in the face. I had walked far into a winter of stone steeples, a bunch of graffiti that read, "Elect the dead," and then no more sidewalk. Nausea on the way to get groceries. Someone is about to drop a bomb. A hallway of sunshine, done for another eon. I heard if you get drained by people, create a purple energy shield around you. So what could I do but imagine purple light as a bubble around the city, the whole country, the world. Thought about usness and ongoing, fully invasive mint, old trees chanting shame. Us burning with nostalgia about the time when the future was promising. Languages with no future tense use the present instead, make future a suite next to the present. Tomorrow I break free. Tomorrow he is gone. The gas engine is no more. I do not smoke. Tomorrow most animals and trees are dead. In the fall I live this fall. The speakers of these languages supposedly have more prudence, prepare, save money, smoke less, except an outlier culture that has no marker for the future tense, who don't especially prepare for their future selves. Perhaps to some, they are hedonists. I guess you could pull your dick through a hole in a mask, but it'll be tough to get your pants up. And I thought I would read this longer poem just because I almost never read it at readings. It's also called Futureless Languages. And I do live in Philadelphia, so if you feel like you want to imagine where this is happening, you could totally imagine it happening in Philadelphia. Futureless Languages. I didn't notice the carcass until it was in the hawk's mouth, limp gray lunch package that no one set out for him. What's after persistence, shrewdness? We won't have to really guess now. In my mind, I already live in another country. I've moved there already, the beautiful language. There's not really another nation I could call home, though, trained as I am. She said the most radical thing she ever did was stay put. So a green ocean waves its hands into and out of view, its million seeds off. It puts on a few thousand green shirts, savors air. No one sees everything the tree has thrown away. Every time I watch the news, I delete a few more poems. On a cold island nation, a friend, like me, partly Asian, got detained as an enemy of our country. Groped by people, embarrassed and indignant, they had to carry out our standard for humiliation. Because she told the truth somewhere, a burning wick under a wax figure. She made it back. When I return to the States, a camera sizes up my face, puts a circle around it, and prints it on a stub. The people with X's through their faces queue into a line of all brown people. I see that I'm going into the line of blonde people. Excessive, expensive baggage. I stare into subtitles the way you lean on a table to offset your own fatigue. How to pick a tense for burdens like, how did I get here? What should we do? When I try to think about the future, I want to lie down on the sidewalk in winter, listen to neighbors hack ice off their windshields, like we all agreed to chopping down what obscures, the whole neighborhood ringing with hammer blows, north or east or south facing nails. Futureless, you still eat pizza if you know you're going to die. You answer the phone, well, maybe not. The jokes I used to make to classes, now obsolete. You're free to do so. It's still America for the next 5 minutes. Or that we understand exposition, the way water comes to a boil, and the frog doesn't realize. I set poems in a ludicrous future, but people think they're in the present. I never thought it was that common to not lie. Earn our onion paper rolled up, slid into a crack in the wall. Mom kept warning me what not to say. I spoke German, lived anyway. She had feared the sound of it, the marching boots. Years after the war, she'd heard a little girl speak its thistles. On a train, it was the first time they sounded beautiful to her. A sedge grows in a crack, another long brush, more stems. She says back then the Nazi officer had looked her over, decided to let her dark-haired cousins and her go. The salve, not his thoughts exactly, but that he knew he could stop that day his part of the machine, of orders, and anyway, auto-translate forgets to translate syntax, as if the wind dropped someone's cards all over the floor. Like this, so many jokes about vermin when they Bannon fired. Or, too late, it already all the eggs in the draperies has laid. They're putting Reichskriegerflagge on BMWs in Berlin, like now. Mom dozes, asks, did Hitler kill himself? I say, hold on, I think so. Look it up while we're resting. The blood pool and soak into carpet, the whole mess rolled, shoved into a furnace. Aware I'm reading this because habe ich mich entschlossen, ein Scheusal zu sein? Or more than my deciding to be more of a monster, is that each day we try to forget the massive, law-abiding, unexceptional stupidity. German Richard III eats faster than he can swallow, spoonfuls of white cream he then spreads on his face. It dries, drops off, or cracks, a cracking mask. Or that other play where sometimes the stage is covered with peat for imitation graveside, or a fistful of dung thrown on a plate. The play is the thing, is discussed underfoot, is fodder for relief. A playgoer who's seen this stage posts that in impossible life situations, he imagines the earth covered in chocolate cake crumbs. A short 5 decades from one siren and air raid haunted childhood to the daughter learning for no reason the language of the enemy. Why is it easier to learn or do than keeping your hands off this world? Seeing that unterstreichen is cousin to underscore, that Susie is like under there. You learn to drive in actual snow without losing the road. That if you think you're basically good, we are doomed. That if you see truths as interchangeable, we're doomed. Some Canadian children who like dogs and pizza asked me if in my poem I meant, be as good as you can be. I mentioned that in the rest of the world, they assume Darth Vader is American. They bring up Nixon, the wars, trailed off. I looked into their faces. I do things to undermine our insanity. I'll never tell you about them here. And I'm going to read 2 more poems. This poem's called Eternity. It's the last poem in Futureless Languages. Whoever you are, I decided I would keep large half shells as plates and never think of a man-made plate again. The world in which that would happen. I imagine us eating out of these, a broth. Everyone asks why there's no furniture in this house. It's because today is always the day to write eternity. It's because I want the torso and not the clothes, the sublime and not the subway doors closing before we can walk on. And yet it's true, I can love too the snow leveled off and pushed against the vans. This one self made of iron and stars, these many people here. I still love your looking for a place dry enough to step on and never getting your foot wet despite the ice lagoons. Your hand reaching for my hand. It takes me a minute to realize you're wearing gloves because I'm wearing gloves. And the last poem I'm going to read, it's a free poem. It's not in a book. Absence. The sun streamed strongly into the room from somewhere, but I was haunting it from the attic hatch in the ceiling. I kept seeing myself down underneath in the bedroom, moving gold-rimmed tea sets, folding laundry. No matter what I did, I couldn't quite make eye contact with the me living below. I tried to get my own attention. I put on a green corduroy dress that was my favorite color, rotting boots like dirt. I traded my hair in for fire. I took my face out so there was nothing there. And below, other me was witless, looking to the left and the right. Attic me was scaring the crap out of real life living room me. But real life me could never actually catch a glimpse of ghost me, no matter how hard I whipped around. I only ever caught the edge of flames or the window of nothing where the face had been. What had I done with my life to make my future dead self so profesh at Minas? Guests sipped tea, nodded, pretended to believe that I was being haunted. I wanted to reach down from the attic and steal something from me as proof, the way you might steal a cardigan from a sibling, thinking, it's wasted on her, it would look better on me. It's wasted on me. I mean, this world, this I, that the rest of us keep using so poorly. Thank you very much. Thanks for hanging out.
Thank you. Thank you, Emily. Thank you, Jacob. And thank you, Cynthia. And thank you all for joining us tonight. We hope to see you again at one of our write-ins next week and again next Friday to hear and see Gregory Pardlow. And be safe. Enjoy the weather. Enjoy the weekend. Don't be stupid. Stay masked. Stay socially distant. And stay connected. And on the way out, if you see the Pass the Hat button in the chat window and you have a few bucks you'd like to help us out with, we'd appreciate it. Bye-bye now. Thanks again. We'll see you soon.